Welcome to a deep dive into text to audio generation. In 2025, this is really cutting edge stuff, and we're looking at a brand new model called TangoFlux. And we've got an excerpt from the research paper right here. Let me tell you, it is packed with exciting details. Today, we're going to figure out what makes TangoFlux so special. How fast is super fast? How does it, compare to other models? And the biggest question of all, how do you teach a machine what sounds good?
That is a question that has really fascinated researchers for a very long time, and TangoFlux offers some really intriguing answers.
So first off, let's talk speed. TangoFlux can generate 30 seconds of high-quality audio in just 3.7 seconds. To put that into perspective, imagine listening to a video game soundtrack that adapts in real time to your actions. That's the kind of potential we're talking about here.
And you're right to highlight that speed. I mean, faster generation times means less waiting around, right,
Yeah.
for us. But it also means the technology becomes more sustainable. AI is getting more complex, and often that comes with a hefty energy bill. So TangoFlux's efficiency is a big step in the right direction.
Okay, so it's fast, but is it any good? The paper also emphasizes TangoFlux's fidelity, basically how well it sticks to the script, and creates audio that matches the text description. Now, we've all heard about these AI hallucinations, where the output kind of goes off on a tangent. How does TangoFlux avoid that audio nightmare?
The researchers were very aware of the hallucination problem, and they actually came up with a three-stage training process to combat it. So it starts with pre-training
Yeah.
and fine-tuning, but the real magic happens in the third stage, preference optimization.
See, this is what I don't get. Teaching a machine about good audio seems like, it seems like a real challenge. Taste is so subjective. How did they pull that off?
Well, they used a system called CLF Ranked Preference Optimization, or CRPO. It works like this. So the model generates multiple audio samples based on the given text, and then a separate AI called CLP, which is really good at matching audio to text, ranks those samples from best to worst. Imagine having a super listener who can instantly judge how well the audio fits the words.
So it's like giving the AI feedback on its performance. But again, with good sound being so subjective, how does the machine even begin to understand that?
It's all about these feedback loops, just like with human learning. So TangoFlux uses a ranking from CIP to adjust its internal workings, making it more likely to produce outputs that are similar to the high-ranking samples it learns by example.
Right.
And it refines its understanding of good based on that feedback.
That makes sense. But how does CRPO stand out from other training methods? How do you prevent it from just becoming generic?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. So COPO has a couple of tricks up its sleeve. First, it constantly generates new training data, which prevents the AI from getting stuck in a rut, producing the same kinds of sounds over and over again. Think of it like a musician who keeps experimenting with new styles and instruments.
So it's constantly evolving its sonic palette. Okay, what's the other trick?
The other trick is they tweak the way the AI learns from its mistakes, so the so-called loss function. And what this does is it helps to balance improving the best outputs while still keeping things diverse and preventing the sound from becoming too uniform. It's a delicate balancing act between refinement and creative exploration.
Okay, so it's learning to create good audio without becoming a one-trick pony. I am really curious to hear how all of this translates into real-world performance. But before we jump into that, can you tell me a little bit more about this separate AI model called CLAP? It sounds like it plays a pretty important role in all of this.
You're absolutely right. CLAP is really key to TangoFlux's success. It's a type of AI that has been specifically trained to understand the relationship between text and audio. So you can think of it as a bridge between the two worlds, helping TangoFlux learn from those human preferences and translate them into sound.
So CLAP is like the tastemaker, the expert critic that helps TangoFlux refine its style. This is really fascinating stuff.
It is, and it really speaks to the incredible progress that we're seeing in AI development. By combining different models and training methods, researchers are creating systems that are capable of surprising levels of creativity and sophistication.
Now, before we move on to comparing TangoFlux with other models, I think it's important to highlight that TangoFlux was trained on completely open source data. That's a big deal for transparency and reproducibility in the research community.
Right, absolutely. So using open source data allows other researchers to scrutinize the training process, understand potential biases, and build upon the work that's already been done. So it's a crucial step toward making AI development more ethical and collaborative.
So, to recap, TangoFlux is amazingly fast. It's surprisingly good at following instructions thanks to this innovative CRPO method, and it's built on open source data, which is a big win for transparency in AI. Now, let's dig into how TangoFlux actually performs compared to other state-of-the-art models. I'm dying to hear how it stacks up against the competition, but we'll save that for part two of our deep dive.
I think you'll be quite impressed with what you hear. The results are very promising, to say the least. Welcome back. So I'm excited to dive into how TangoFlux actually performs. Remember all those impressive claims about speed and fidelity? Well, the researchers didn't just talk the talk. They put TangoFlux through a rigorous series of tests to see how it measured up.
So it's time for the AI sound off. They compared TangoFlux to some real heavy hitters in the text-to-audio world. Audio LDM2, Stable Audio Open, and Tango 2. Think of it as like a Sonic Olympics where each model is competing for the gold medal in audio generation.
And to make it a fair competition, they used a standardized set of metrics to evaluate each model. So these metrics look at things like how closely the generated audio matches the statistical properties of real-world sounds, how well it captures the meaning of the text prompt. They even look at how diverse the outputs were, because you don't want an AI that just creates the same sounds over and over again.
Right, you want it to be creative, not just, a parrot mimicking what it's heard before. So how did TangoFlux do in this audio Olympics? Did it bring home the gold?
I am happy to report that TangoFlux consistently outperformed the other models across almost all of the metrics. It even excelled at handling complex prompts with multiple events happening at once. For example, imagine describing a scene like this. A cat hisses sharply as glass shatters nearby, followed by hurried footsteps and the slam of a closing door. That's a lot of different sounds to juggle.
Wow, that's like a whole movie scene packed into one audio clip.
Exactly. And TangoFlux managed to handle it beautifully, creating this rich and realistic soundscape that perfectly matched the description. Really shows the power of this model to understand complex instructions and translate them into sound.
That's impressive. But well, let's talk practicality for a moment. Sometimes you don't need like a super detailed masterpiece, right? What if you just want a quick and simple audio clip?
Well, remember how we talked about TangoFlux's incredible speed? That's really where it shines in those situations. So the researchers actually tested the models by varying the level of detail the AI was allowed to consider. Think of it like choosing between a quick sketch and a highly detailed painting.
So fewer details would be like a rough draft, and more details would be like the final polished product.
Exactly. And what's amazing is that even with a smaller number of details, TangoFlux still managed to maintain a high level of quality. It's like it's able to capture the essence of the prompt and create a decent audio clip even when it's working with limited resources.
That's great news for people who don't have access to a supercomputer. All this technical talk is making me curious to hear what TangoFlux actually sounds like. I mean, at the end of the day, AI-generated audio is meant to be listened to, right?
You're absolutely right. The human ear is the ultimate judge. So to really put TangoFlux to the test, they recruited a bunch of listeners and had them evaluate the audio outputs. And they didn't make it easy for the models. They created a set of challenging prompts that were specifically designed to test their ability to handle complex scenarios and less common sounds.
So not just your typical like dog bark or car horn. Give me an example of something more challenging.
Well, imagine trying to describe the clinking of glass vials in a laboratory, or the crackle of bioluminescent plants in a dark forest, or the ominous hiss of a gas leak. These are sounds that are difficult to capture and even harder for an AI to generate realistically.
That's a clever way to test the AI's creativity and ability to go beyond the mundane.
Exactly. And to make the evaluations as fair as possible, they had multiple listeners assess each clip and used various statistical techniques to account for personal preferences. They wanted to get a clear picture of which model consistently produced the most pleasing and accurate results.
Okay, enough suspense. Tell me, how did TangoFlux do in the Sonic Showdown? Did it win over the human listeners?
Drumroll, please. TangoFlux came out on top again. So it received the highest ratings for both overall audio quality and relevance to the text prompt. Listeners were impressed by its clarity, its naturalness, and its ability to capture those subtle nuances of even the most complex descriptions.
So it passed the test with flying colors. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about how the other models performed. Did any of them have any particular strengths or weaknesses?
Yes, actually. So each model kind of had its own unique characteristics. For example, Tango 2 did a great job of aligning the audio with the text, but it didn't score as high in terms of of overall audio quality. It was a bit like listening to a technically proficient but emotionally flat performance.
Interesting. So it nailed the technical aspects, but lacked a bit of soul. What about the others?
Stable Audio Open was quite good in terms of sound quality. It produced rich and textured audio, but it sometimes struggled to accurately represent all the elements of the prompt. It's like it got caught up in the beauty of individual sounds and missed some of the finer details of the story.
So each model has its own strengths and weaknesses, kind of like different artists with their own styles and approaches.
Exactly. And that's what makes this field so fascinating. We're not just building machines, we're exploring the very nature of creativity and how AI might reshape the way we make and experience art. Now that's a deep thought. But before we get too philosophical, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the CRPO method. The researchers actually compared it to another approach called DPO-FM or direct preference optimization for flow matching. What can you tell me about that?
It's another fascinating technique. Essentially, both CRPO and DPO-FM aim to train AI to align with human preferences, but they go about it in slightly different ways. It's like two chefs trying to cook the same dish but using different recipes.
So they're both aiming for the same delicious outcome, but taking different paths to get there.
Precisely. And what they found is that CRPO consistently produced better results. It was more stable during training, meaning it was less likely to get stuck in a rut or over-optimize on certain features, and the audio that it generated was judged to be more pleasing to human ears.
It sounds like CRPO really is the secret sauce that gives TangoFlux its edge. You could say that. It highlights the power of iterative learning and constant feedback. By continuously generating new data and refining its preferences based on human evaluations. TangoFlux is able to achieve a level of sophistication that surpasses those traditional training methods.
It's truly mind-blowing to think about how far this technology has come. With each breakthrough, we're getting closer and closer to a future where AI can create sounds that are indistinguishable from those produced by humans.
It's a future full of possibilities. But as with any powerful technology, we need to consider the broader implications. What does TangoFlux's success tell us about the evolving relationship between humans and AI? And what are the ethical considerations we need to be thinking about as this technology continues to develop? We'll delve into those questions in the final part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into TangoFlux. You know, we've covered a lot of ground, from the technical details of how it works to its impressive performance compared to other models. So now I kind of want to zoom out and consider the bigger picture. We're talking about AI that can create realistic audio from text. The possibilities are truly mind-boggling, but with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Absolutely. As with any groundbreaking technology, I think we need to be mindful of the potential impact on society. It's crucial to have these conversations early on so we can, steer the development and use of AI in a direction that benefits everyone.
For me, one of the biggest concerns is the potential for misuse, especially when it comes to creating fake audio that's indistinguishable from the real deal. I mean, we've all seen how deepfakes have been used to spread misinformation, and audio deepfakes could take that to a whole new level.
Yeah, it's a valid concern, and it's something that researchers and developers are acutely aware of. Imagine someone using this technology to fabricate evidence.
Yeah.
Or impersonate public figures, or even manipulate financial markets with fake audio recordings. The implications are serious, and we need to be prepared.
It's like we're entering a world where we can't even trust our own ears.
Yeah.
So what can be done to prevent this kind of misuse?
Well, there are a few different approaches. One is to develop technological safeguards, like watermarking techniques that embed a hidden signature in the generated audio.
Yeah.
That way you could potentially verify whether a piece of audio is genuine or synthetic.
So it's like a digital fingerprint that can help us, spot the fakes.
Exactly. Another approach is to focus on detection algorithms that can analyze audio for telltale signs of manipulation. So these algorithms would look for subtle inconsistencies or artifacts that might indicate that the audio has been tampered with.
It sounds like a game of cat and mouse. As the technology to create deepfakes gets more sophisticated, so do the methods for detecting them.
That's exactly right. It's an ongoing arms race.
Yeah.
but I don't think technology alone can solve the problem. We also need to raise public awareness about the potential for audio deepfakes. We
Yeah.
need to educate people to be, more critical listeners,
Hmm.
to question the source of information, and to be wary of anything that seems, too good to be true.
So it's like we all need to become like digital detectives,
Yeah.
trained to spot the subtle clues that might give away a fake.
I like that analogy. It's about developing a healthy skepticism and honing our media literacy skills. We need to be able to evaluate information critically, regardless of whether it comes from a human or a machine.
Well said.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears a bit and talk about the potential impact on the creative industries. AI that can generate music and sound effects and even voice characters with human level quality. I mean, that's a game changer, right? Some people are worried that this technology could, replace human artists and lead to job losses. What are your thoughts on that?
It's understandable that people are concerned about the potential for disruption. I mean, whenever new technologies emerge, there's always a period of adjustment. But I think it's important to remember that throughout history, new tools have often led to new forms of creativity and expression.
Right, like when electronic instruments came on the scene, they didn't replace acoustic music entirely. They gave rise to entirely new genres and opened up this whole world of sonic possibilities.
Exactly. And I think we'll see a similar evolution with AI-generated audio. Instead
Yeah.
of viewing it as a threat, we could see it as a powerful tool that can, augment human creativity, democratize access to music and sound production, and push the boundaries of what's possible.
I love that perspective. It's about collaboration, not replacement. Imagine a world where anyone, regardless of their musical background or technical expertise, can use AI to bring their sonic ideas to life.
Precisely. It could unlock a wave of creativity and innovation, empowering people to express themselves in ways that were never before possible. Think of it like having a virtual bandmate or a personal sound designer at your fingertips.
This is getting me really excited about the future of music, but there are also some complex legal and ethical questions to consider. If an AI helps create a piece of music, who owns the copyright? Is it the person who provided the prompt, the developers of the AI model, or is it a collaborative creation?
Those are great questions, and ones that we as a society need to grapple with. We need to have open and honest conversations about the nature of creativity in the age of intelligent machines, and update our intellectual property laws to reflect the new realities of AI generated content.
It seems like the real deep dive is just beginning. Understanding the technology is just the first step. The more profound challenge is to examine how this technology will impact our values, our beliefs, and our understanding of what it means to be human.
Well said. We're on the cusp of a new era of sound, and it's up to all of us to shape it responsibly and ensure that it enriches our lives.
It's a perfect note to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into TangoFlux. We hope you've enjoyed exploring this fascinating new world of AI-generated audio.